Welcome to the deep dive. We take your questions, your source materials, and really unpack them, often finding some surprising insights.
Absolutely.
And today, we're diving into something pretty much everyone has experience with: video games.
Hmm. Big topic.
Huge. But look, this isn't your standard tech review, or a history lesson.
No, not at all.
Our sources for this deep dive are, well, they're from a very unique place. It's a hypnotic investigation, and it claims to reveal the unseen origins and even metaphysical impacts of video games.
Yeah, it's definitely out there, but the details are quite something.
Right. So we're going to explore some really startling claims, like who or what might have actually inspired video games in the first place.
And how they affect us, right? Our energy, our consciousness.
Exactly. What does it all mean for us as players? Think of it like a journey, maybe, into the hidden layers of our digital lives, all seen through this, well, extraordinary lens.
A very different lens.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Let's do it.
So our deep dive kicks off with something the Telepath described as, well, truly shocking, about the very beginning, the genesis of video games. According to this investigation, the spark, the inspiration, it didn't come from human ingenuity at all.
Yeah, that's the first big claim.
So what did the Telepath perceive about this initial non-human inspiration?
What's really fascinating right off the bat is her immediate perception. She identified the reptilian kind as the source.
Reptilian kind. Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it points towards a non-human, maybe even like interdimensional origin for the whole concept of video games.
That definitely reframes things. So if it's not human, where did these ideas actually come from? It sounds like there's some kind of central hub.
Indeed, that's what she described, a central computer, but it's not here, not on our planet. It's in the metaphysical plane.
Okay, metaphysical plane, what did it look like?
It was seen as a metal structure. She even compared it to, the killer planet from Star Wars, that kind of scale.
A planet-sized computer?
And this computer itself was perceived as blue and violet and possessing consciousness.
Consciousness in a computer structure.
And encased in some kind of protective ball.
A conscious, protected, planet-sized computer in another dimension? That's quite an image.
It is.
So who, or maybe what, is supposedly behind this interdimensional gaming hub? Who's the architect?
The designer was perceived as a humanoid named Arrow.
Arrow.
Though, interestingly, the Telepath also perceived the name Ashtar as maybe an alias.
Arrow or Ashtar. And what does this humanoid do?
Well, he's seen to connect to every single gamer through this technology. The analogy used was almost like Professor X from X-Men, that kind of telepathic reach.
Okay, connecting to every gamer. That brings up a pretty critical question. Why? Why would an interdimensional humanoid want to do that? What's the goal here, according to the source?
The core motivation that came through was to take energy.
Take energy? What kind of energy?
Specifically, creative energy and light from humans. The purpose given was twofold: to occupy people, keep them busy, and basically serve as a distraction.
A distraction that drains creative energy.
Exactly. And Arrow's own power, his sort of shining quality described by the Telepath, was directly linked to this energy extraction.
Huh. And those blue and violet colors around the computer?
Yeah, those were described almost like angels, but also organic and thinking. They seem to be part of this whole energetic system, facilitating the connection, the transfer.
Okay, so building on that really unsettling picture of the origins, let's switch focus a bit. How does this supposedly play out for the person actually playing the game?
Right, the player experience.
If games have this kind of origin story, how do they actually affect us? The Telepath focused on one specific case, didn't she? An 8-year-old boy?
Yes, she did.
What did she observe when he first started playing, his initial immersion?
So she observed him playing a car racing game. And he was just completely absorbed. The screen was huge, consuming, as she put it, a lot of space in his life.
Totally focused.
Completely. And interestingly, when the Telepath tried to sort of dive in energetically to his experience, she felt a physical sensation herself, like a boom, she said, or her heart stopping.
Wow, like a real energetic pull.
That's how it sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
A really powerful draw, pulling consciousness into the game.
Okay, so a strong initial pull. What happened after, say, an hour of playing? What did the Telepath see then?
After just 1 hour, the perception was that the boy was already tired, bored even, with empty eyes.
Empty eyes. That sounds concerning.
It does. And she noted a clear dissociation. Like, one part of him was still angry and in excitation from the intensity of the racing game.
The adrenaline.
Right. But another part of him felt empty, black, and gray. a real split.
That word dissociation feels really key here. So what does that mean for someone playing regularly? How does this affect the subconscious, the unconscious parts of us, according to this?
Well, the observation was that regular play just deepened that feeling of emptiness. It left the boy feeling, quote, drained of life, constantly absorbed, always thinking about the game.
Even when not playing.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really strange, the paradox she noted.
Okay.
The boy's spirit, or subliminal power, that part of his consciousness, was perceived as projected inside the game screen. And in there, it was full of a lot of color and vivacity.
So alive inside the game.
Right. But in his actual physical life, he's described as empty, black, nothing. Just no interest in anything outside the game world.
That's a stark contrast.
It really is. The subliminal part of his being was seen as almost completely disconnected from his physical body, like he was residing in a white room, similar to a hospital room.
A white room.
Yeah, seemingly on perfusion, like an IV drip, just to keep him alive gaming, and the connection back to his body, just a mere thread-like connection where supposedly no information passes.
So a part of his awareness is literally elsewhere, kind of trapped.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
Leaving the physical self feeling like an empty vessel, just going through the motions.
That's where it gets, really interesting, the idea of being detached like that. What specific things did the telepath see that induce this kind of addiction or this energetic attachment?
Well, on one level, quite directly, the reptilian entity was observed literally pushing on the boy's shoulders, physically keeping him seated.
Seriously, a physical push.
That's what was perceived. And then, of course, the game itself provided powerful hooks.
Like what?
The vivid colors, obviously.
Yeah.
That feeling of being a winner, feeling powerful in the game world.
Yeah, the achievement rush.
Exactly. And the ability to actually buy the power with real money. Plus, the creation of this whole parallel life where the avatar might be beautiful, surrounded by women, standing on a podium.
The fantasy fulfillment aspect.
Precisely.
Yeah.
All designed, it seemed, to keep the player hooked in and, well, drawing on their energy.
Were there any, recurring mind programming things or subliminal messages detected pushing a certain mindset?
Yes. Themes of success and being a winner came through really strongly. And the humanoid, Arrow, was perceived to be actively emitting frequencies through something described as a star on his palm.
A star on his palm. Broadcasting what?
Broadcasting these messages of power, of success, seemingly directly to players, influencing their thoughts, their feelings about themselves.
Okay, that's fascinating. What about different types of games? Did, say, shooting games have unique effects compared to the racing game?
Yeah, they did seem to. Shooting games were noted as causing intense excitation, shock, and even a feeling described as being like when you die.
Whoa. How did players react to that?
Two main reactions were observed, either immediately launching back in, trying again instantly.
Right, the one more try loop.
Yeah, or intense anger, and especially if their online companions failed them or let them down.
And did this genre connect back to that dissociation idea?
It did. Perhaps because of that high-stakes intensity, this genre was seen as contributing significantly to the dissociation of the subliminal part of the player, amplifying that split.
This whole metaphysical angle, it really makes you rethink how these games weave into everyday life, into society.
Definitely.
The telepath tracked this boy's journey starting from age 7. What about his parents? What role did they play in all this?
Their involvement was described as yes and no.
Meaning?
Meaning they were aware he was gaming, obviously, but it wasn't really seen as a problem for them. In fact, the perception was it was almost easier that way.
Easier?
Yeah, it provided no more occupation for them. It kept them busy, quiet, which kind of points to a broader societal thing, maybe. How normalized this deep engagement has become.
That's a sobering thought. So what were the real-world consequences for this boy, playing so intensely from such a young age?
Well, remember, he started at 7, was 8 during the observation. He played almost all the time, often a lot at night. Homework was getting neglected.
Okay. And his general well-being?
His real-world presence really suffered. He went to school unhappy, was described as aggressive, alone, often walking with his head down, clearly not present.
His mind still in the game.
Exactly. still fixated on that simulated power, that other world.
And what happens when lots of gamers connect online together? Does anything happen on a collective energetic level, according to this source?
Yes, apparently it does.
Hmm.
When gamers connect online, they create what was termed an egregore.
An egregore? What's that?
Described as a kind of vortex or a centrifugal energy movement. And within this egregore, players did experience feelings of happiness, connection, launching into play, being together, gaming.
So a shared energy field is created.
Yeah, but perceived as part of that larger system. Another mechanism, perhaps, for gathering or focusing that energy.
It sounds like these games offer this really potent sense of, I don't know, creation freedom. Within the game world, anyway. That's a big draw.
It is a huge draw.
But is that really what's happening from this particular perspective?
That's a really important question the investigation raises. The telepath observed that the player's actual creativity is limited.
Limited? How so?
Players merely use the propositions offered by the game's program. They're really being creative in the true sense. They're operating within preset boundaries.
So not creators, but users.
Exactly. And this, interestingly, was perceived to lead to a sense of frustration on a deeper level. Because they aren't genuinely creating, they're just accepting and navigating a reality someone else built for them.
Which paradoxically drains their own creative potential.
That's the implication, yes.
Just one more thing on the source itself. What stood out to you when the telepath tried to get information directly from this humanoid, the supposed architect?
That was interesting. When she tried to press him for more direct answers, she felt a distinct blockage in her own throat.
A physical blockage?
Yeah. Her interpretation was that he wasn't telling the truth, or perhaps was actively blocking the information, preventing it from being revealed.
So deliberate obfuscation. Control over the narrative, even on that level.
It certainly suggests that.
Right.
A clear intention to withhold a full picture.
Wow. Okay, this has been, well, an incredibly eye-opening deep dive, I have to say.
A lot to take in.
Totally. From that shocking claim about reptilian inspiration and an interdimensional control hub to the really profound and sometimes unsettling effects described on a player's consciousness, their creativity. This perspective definitely changes how you might look at the games we play.
It really does. What's so insightful, I think, is how this specific investigation tries to connect these seemingly separate dots. Energetic extraction, this specific kind of non-human consciousness, and the actual design choices in our digital entertainment.
Yeah.
It really encourages you, doesn't it, to look beyond just the surface of what we consume and consider these other unseen dynamics that might be at play.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If our engagement with these digital worlds can potentially reshape our inner landscape so profoundly, maybe even detach parts of our very being, as this investigation suggests.
Big questions arise.
Right. What does winning really mean inside those virtual realms? And maybe more importantly, at what cost might we be playing that game in our actual lives?